So as I debated what to preach on graduation Sunday, I went back to our series in James as we were trying to finish it up, and we've had lots of holidays and things that have kind of changed our plans. I debated, and I looked at the message for James and the following line here, and I thought, man, this is a great graduation Sunday message also, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but so if you want, we're going to continue through James. It's James chapter 5, verse 12. And I'm going to tell you where the title of my sermon came from, because the definition of is probably a funny way to say that, but some of you might know already as I can begin the story, but if you remember Bill Clinton's big trial with the Monica Lewinsky thing, in one of his interviews, as they're going through this whole thing with me, he makes the statement, depends on what your definition of is. And when I heard that, it stuck with me, not because one, I think it's really funny that that's the way he defended himself, but two, the rest is history, but when you make the statement is, when you make a definitive fact that something is, you're making claims. You are calling things a fact because of what the word is does. If something is something, you are stating it to be true. But it seems like in our modern world, everything has a slippery meaning. We don't want to get pinned down on anything. So as a result, a lot of our society stands for nothing. That appearances matter more than the inner reality. When it comes to integrity, most modern people seem to follow the advice from the famous movie producer Samuel Goldwyn. He once said that the most difficult part of acting was being authentically honest before the audience. And then he went on to say, once you can fake it, you're in. Christians have to take a stand for integrity. Integrity is what we are on the inside, showing up on us on the outside. A popular term for that today is transparency. And that transparency should be evident in the way we speak, but it goes beyond our words. It goes much deeper than that. James chapter 5, verse 12. It's where we're at. There's just the one verse today. It says this. It says, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no. Otherwise, you will be condemned. There's a lot packed into this one verse when talking about human nature and who we are. There's a lot packed into verse 12 of James. Because the color gray exists in our world today. Relativism, which I gave you the meaning of it up there, it's the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to the culture, society, or historical context, and they are not absolute. Relativism is widely spread and is very pervasive in our culture today. There's a Gallup poll done that asks people to agree or disagree with this statement. There are few moral absolutes. What is right or wrong usually varies from situation to situation. If you told me there's probably a 50-50 split among people that agree with that statement, I could have been like, I can see that. Almost 75% of respondents agreed with that statement. So who assesses these situations? And we do. And we normally assess situations in our favor. The situationism plus self-centeredism results in moral disintegration. We begin to fall apart. Go back to Israel, way back. Let's go way back for Israel for just a minute. Back in the time of the Judges. Scripture says, in those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit. And it's not said in a positive light. Because what we see fit, based upon worldly culture, apart from God, is normally not healthy. That's why separation from God in our lives is a very real thing and a very dangerous thing. Because we as humans, who we are apart from God, in a lot of ways is really scary. So we have to have standards. And the Bible, Scripture lays out that foundation of morality. And that foundation for who we should be is derived from God's character. A lot of it is black and white. And if we're supposed to be laid out in God's character, our personal values, our personal choices should reflect that foundation. So we go back to how I talk about Christ sometimes. And for his day and age, Christ was what I would call a radical. He changed the way people thought. He was trying to change people's thinking of what it meant to have a relationship with God. And he developed this radical truthfulness. James says in the Scripture that our honesty and our integrity, they should define us. That we say what we mean and we mean what we say. That everything we do should be based on truth. James says honesty doesn't need to be backed up. Because, I mean, in today's world, in a lot of places, just placing your hand on a Bible in a courtroom really make a difference? I mean, to some, yes. But to others? James says backing it up shows there's something wrong. I mean, let's be honest. When we talk to somebody, I'm telling you the truth, honest, I am. How do we really feel? Right? You know, we go through Scripture and we see, the oaths that were taken in the Old Testament, the oath that Christ himself took in his court of law at that moment. But we see that those things shouldn't have to happen. That those oaths shouldn't have to be taken. That based on who we are, based on our personal being, we should be able to make a difference based on that alone. That our yes should mean something and our no should mean something to somebody. That oaths cannot take the place of truth. Jesus says that oaths should not be backed up by gold or silver. Why? Because gold is behind everything. Christ said, because money drives everybody. Swearing by your own heads implies that failure to comply would bring some catastrophe upon you. But sometimes it's not within our control. James is very close to the Sermon on the Mount in this verse. James and Jesus are very much in agreement here. You go back to the Sermon on the Mount, yes should be yes, and your no should be your no's, without embellishment. Because anything beyond that's really unnecessary. So when we look at the world and we think about how these things go down, and the oaths that people take, and a lot of times the paperwork that you have to sign for certain things, that I witness or I testify to this, that, Christians should be different. We're honest because it's right, not because it works. That we're honest and we're truthful with who we are and who others are to us and the relationships that we have because it's the right thing to do. Alexander Solzhenitsyn is a wonderful, wonderful writer. He got a Nobel Prize in lecture on literature, and he closed his whole thing with this quote. He said, "One word of truth outweighs the whole world." situations because God expects it. It's part of our character. God is truth. Satan is the father of lies. Christians must be people not only telling the truth, but of the truth. Living in the truth. Living in God. Relativism is spreading so rampant right now. People claiming there's no absolute truth, which baffles me because the statement there is no absolute truth is an absolute truth in and of itself. Makes no sense to me, but it's true. But it's a true thing. It's spreading. It's scary. So here's some practical advice for all of this. Watch your words. Several ways. Avoid fudging the truth. This is a big one in today's world. I mean, fish stories are built upon fudging the truth. I mean, you should have seen him. He was right next to the boat. His mouth was this big. I was afraid he was going to eat me. And then he got loose. Don't fudge the truth. If all you catch is a turtle, it's all you catch. Sorry. Bill Hybel puts it like this. He says, let's face it, at one time or another, everyone is tempted to fudge a little. None of us is totally honest all the time. We occasionally exaggerate. We tend to break our commitments from time to time. We can trace this kind of misbehavior all the way back to the opening scenes of the Bible. Adam fudged by blaming Eve for the way they had violated God's command. Ever since the earliest days in human history, the world has feasted on fudge. And sadly, we still do. Don't embellish the truth or yourself. Avoid spinning the truth. You know, this is a popular one among our government officials and things today. Spinning the truth to make it look like it's you, or it's their fault, or it's our fault. You know? It may be truth, but it's one-sided, and it's self-serving. What we may want to say, or may not want to say, may be more important than what we need to say. And a yes must be balanced with no. They must mean and have the same weight to you. Don't go about seeking approval from everyone else. Popularity, your standing in people's eyes is not more important than what truth is. Have the guts it takes to stand up for issues. Stand up for truth. And mean what you say. Don't let these be empty words. I promise. I'll pay you back tomorrow. I'll call you back. It's finished. It's sitting on my desk. It's in the mail. Trust me. I'll be praying for you. We go on and on with sayings in today's world. Don't let them be empty. Be honest in every area of your life. Honesty is important. Matthew chapter 12 tells us what? That each action, each word we say will be called into judgment. So being truthful, being honest with who you are is important. It's very important. Find who you are. So be honest in every area of your life. Be honest with your family and your friends. Keep your marriage vows. Not just when the wedding band's on your finger. Not just out in the open, where everybody can see it. But behind closed doors, honor your marriage vows. Model honesty before your kids. Admit sometimes you fail. You know, I told somebody this story not too long ago. I was pretty upset with Zoe Because Zoe has developed this thing, and I think every kid goes through at some point in their life, but nothing's ever good enough. You know, there's always, I want more. I need more. And I don't know, we were in Great Bend, we had been to a friend's house, we had a big cookout with them, and we had a great day together. We're getting ready to leave, and she's like, so we're going to get ice cream, right? It just fumed me. I'm like, no! You know, we just did all this together, and I began to rip into her. And she was upset all the way home. And we get home, and I tell her about the story, and she goes, you owe Zoe an apology. No, I don't. She goes, yeah, I told you guys might stop for ice cream. So I did. I had to say something to Zoe, I'm really sorry. You know, Daddy was upset because this is something we've been dealing with. She said, no, but Mama said, I know what Mama said. I'm really sorry. You know, I mean, sometimes we got to admit that. We got to be honest with our kids. Look, we messed up. You know, I mean, as much as I would like to think I'm the perfect parent, I know that's not true. You know, I know I have my downfalls when it comes to my kids. I know I have my downfalls when it comes to my family, when it comes to being a minister sometimes. I know. We just have to be honest with each other. We have to be honest with our family, with our friends. Beyond all that, I mean, in our business dealings, we have to be honest. Not to rip somebody off, not to take advantage of somebody. But beyond all that, we have to be honest with God. Because when we try to create this image among other people of who we are, we try to embellish the truth about ourselves, we try to make ourselves into something we're not. We begin to make ourselves into that person before God, too. When was the last time we sat down and had a conversation with God and said, God, I'm not as good as I try to make myself out to be. God, I'm not doing well right now. God, I'm struggling to fill in the blanks where you need me to. I'm messed up. God, I need your help. Because as we learn anything along life's path, we cannot and will not be able to do it alone. There is no extent of who we are that will get through life alone. But it's tough. I mean, from day one in our life, we needed somebody by our side. We couldn't have fed ourselves. We couldn't have changed ourselves. From day one, somebody has needed to help us and support us. That doesn't change throughout your whole life. Now granted, you don't need them to feed you or change you anymore. Yet. But we are in need of help. Well, what greater source of help do we have than God as we walk this life? God asks in return what? A relationship and some honesty and some truthfulness with you. Are you walking in my light? Are you living in my light? Are you wanting to make a difference with me? Are you holding any secrets from him? I mean, because you're really not. Okay? We all know that, right? You can't bury anything deep enough in the closet that God won't find it. Okay? But are you trying? Are you trying to fake it till you make it? Are you being honest with God? Are you serving with everything that you can? Are you using your integrity, your character, to show the truth that God has to offer everybody? Are you honest in all areas of life? And when you're not, are you willing to ask for forgiveness? Are you willing to seek out help? Are you willing to find someone to help pick you up and dust you off? Integrity, guys, is a big thing in churches today. It's a big thing in our world. And in my eyes, it seems to be rapidly decaying in a lot of ways. But we have to be that voice of difference. We have to be that voice of reason as Christians, as those standing firm in faith. So will you make that difference? Will you be a difference? Will you be totally truthful and honest with who you are as you walk this life? With who God has made you to be? Serving and wanting the future to be in God's hands. Pray with me. Father God, we cannot express to you enough what it means to be here today, gathered in your house, serving and loving you right now, God. And we just ask that as we as Christians, and as we talk about graduation Sunday, Father, what great advice for not only our graduates, but for all of us. To let our yes be our yes, our no be our no. To live in the truth that is you. To walk in the truth that is you daily. To be guided by that truth. To make it a huge part of who we are, that we hold our integrity together. Father, we know that in this world that is tough. So we ask for your help now. We ask for your hands upon us. Guide us, protect us, and lead us into the future with you. So in Jesus' name.